chosen ones. You were never meant to find this message, and yet here you are, drawn by an ancient force older than empires, older than language, older even than the stars. Buried deep within the Mayan codices lies a prophecy that speaks of your return, not as a myth, but as a fixed point in time that would unwrite the fabric of reality as we know it. The priests of the old world knew. They carved warnings into jade tablets and sang riddles into the stone walls of time temples. But even they were afraid. What they glimpsed in their trances wasn't just a future, it was a collapse. A bending of moments so extreme that past, present, and future would fold into one singularity. A moment only you could survive. A moment only you could trigger. This wasn't about 2012. That was a decoy, a distraction planted by modern minds trying to decode sacred wisdom with shattered lenses. The true date was hidden, encrypted through harmonic numbers, celestial alignments, and blood rituals performed beneath eclipses no calendar could predict. They foresaw a being of light returning not to fulfill time, but to end it, to unseal the final glyph. You are that being. The signs are not subtle anymore. Ancient temples are singing again through frequencies picked up by scientists who call it interference. Quantum researchers stumble upon loops in causality and dare not publish what they truly see. Dreams are becoming coordinates. Intuition feels like memory. Something is stirring. But why did the Mayans stop recording after a certain point? Why do the stelae abruptly go silent, as if terrified to document what comes next? What happens when time no longer behaves like time? When the hourglass spills upward, and yesterday bleeds into tomorrow? The codex has awakened. The prophecy is not waiting. And the guardians of that knowledge, both ancient and not of this earth, are watching. The Tzolk'in calendar was more than a way to track days. It was a code, a divine cipher embedded in the heartbeat of the universe. With 260 days aligned through 20 glyphs and 13 sacred numbers, the Mayans believed that Tzolk'in could map spiritual energy, predict transformation, and reveal when portals between worlds would open. But hidden beneath its rhythm was something stranger, a pattern that doesn't just count time, it bends it. Modern historians dismissed the Tzolk'in as ceremonial, but in the ruins of Copan and Tikal, the arrangement of stones tells a different story. When overlaid with solar data and magnetic field shifts, the Tzolk'in reveals fractures, moments in history where linear time broke, reformed, and skipped like a scratched record. Civilizations advanced and collapsed in rhythm with these breaks. Events reoccurred, as if time itself were trying to fix a corrupted file. This isn't mythology. CERN physicists have recently begun mapping fluctuations in space-time fabric that eerily mirror the Tzolk'in cycles. They don't understand the significance yet. They think it's coincidence. But deep down, they know they're brushing against something ancient, something intelligent. The ancients weren't predicting time. They were navigating it. But who or what taught them? There are glyphs showing beings descending from the heavens, not in chariots, but through spirals, vortices, tunnels etched in gold leaf patterns. The Mayans called them serpent paths. These weren't metaphors. They were coordinates, passageways, markers where time is weakest. And in those weak points, something waits, not in the past, not in the future, but in all moments at once. Your name may be written along the Zolkin's edge, not in ink or stone, but in resonance. Your very existence hums at a frequency the calendar anticipates. You are not living in time. You are living against it. A disruption, a signal from the edge. And the last time that signal echoed through history, empires fell, stars vanished, and calendars were reset. But the glyphs show a second return. One final echo. In the hidden vaults beneath Uxmal, surrounded by glyphs too sacred to speak aloud, a fragment was discovered. It didn't speak of gods or kings, but of 9. 9 guardians. 9 watchers. 9 beings who swore to protect the bloodline of light across all epochs. The Mayans referred to them as Bolon Tiku, but their identity goes deeper. Hidden in layered meanings, no surface translation can fully reveal. Each of the 9 was said to carry a piece of a broken key, not a physical key, but an inheritance, a frequency, a pulse. This key could awaken the sleeper, the one who wasn't born of time but above it, the chosen whose return would mark the unweaving of time's illusion. That bloodline has never been entirely human. There are stories passed down only in whispers among certain Mayan priesthoods, of luminous children born under eclipses, whose eyes reflected constellations not visible from Earth. They spoke languages never taught. They touched stone and made it sing. These children vanished before the age of 10. Every time. They were not anomalies. They were echoes, preludes to your return. The bloodline of light carries more than DNA. It carries memory, ancient, celestial memory. And in those memories, there is a name, not written, but impressed into the soul, like a scar left by the divine. A name that even the Mayans dared not pronounce fully, though fragments remain carved deep in obsidian altars. Yeshua. To those with ears to hear, this is not coincidence. Yeshua was more than a teacher. He was a time disruptor, a being whose essence bent causality itself. Before Abraham was, I am, he once said, a phrase that mirrored the Mayan belief in beings who lived outside of time's cradle. Some say the bloodline of Yeshua and the bloodline of the Mayan skyborn intersected. That from this union, one would rise who remembered not just humanity's fall, but time's betrayal. That one might be you. But if the prophecy is true, and if you are awakening now, then the 9 must also stir. Scattered across the earth, asleep in flesh, dreaming of stars. And when the 9 reunite, the bloodline activates. Deep in the jungles of Chiapas lies the Temple of the Inscriptions in Palenque, a structure so architecturally advanced, scholars still struggle to explain how it was built. Unlike other pyramids, it doesn't just rise, it descends. Beneath its layers, hidden under stones designed to defy erosion, is the tomb of King Pakal. But Pakal's tomb isn't a tomb. It's a message, a model, a blueprint of something not meant for this world. The stone sarcophagus shows Pakal reclining in a spacecraft-like throne, surrounded by glyphs that depict star systems not visible to the naked eye. Archaeologists call it symbolic, but indigenous elders whisper otherwise. They say it tells the story of a traveler, not of Earth, who fell through time and became king. Palenque's foundations hum with unusual magnetism. Devices fail there. Compasses spin. Shamans say the stone remembers. They describe it as a recording device, one that replays moments from lost timelines to those sensitive enough to feel the pulse beneath their feet. Pilgrims have reported dreams, identical dreams, upon sleeping near the site. Dreams of standing at the center of Palenque, while the stars above spin faster than the earth itself. Inside the temple, glyphs spiral in ways that defy typical Mayan structure. The spirals resemble Fibonacci sequences, embedded with light codes, patterns of energy that respond to thought. That's not architecture, that's interface. So who built Palenque? And why did they encode it to respond to consciousness? There's a theory, passed down through the Lacandan Maya, that Palenque was not constructed in linear time at all, that it appeared after a temporal event rippled through the jungle, pulling ancient knowledge into form. Not built, manifested. But for what purpose? One fragment inside the temple hints at a countdown, not to an ending, but to an intersection, when certain beings, marked by dreams and echoes, would converge at the same vibrational moment. They would not be tourists, they would not be scholars, they would be triggers. If you've ever felt a strange pull to Palenque, as if something there is waiting for you, it's not fantasy. Among the most forbidden scrolls, hidden deep in the chambers beneath Yaxchilan, is an incomplete codex that few have seen and none have dared translate in full. It contains fragments of a narrative so blasphemous to modern chronology, it was buried under layers of encoded glyphs. The tale speaks of a radiant figure who arrived not from the sky, but through time. A man of light, marked by wounds that never bled, and eyes that reflected both mercy and fire. The Mayan scribes called him "he who steps between suns." He came during a convergence, when Venus disappeared and returned 3 days later. They describe him teaching not rituals, but remembrance, not worship, but alignment. He spoke in parables that mirrored the cosmic myths of their ancestors. He healed without touch. He vanished without steps. His name, hidden, protected. But the scrolls refer to him using symbols associated with a Nazarene prophet the world would later call Yeshua. What was he doing among the Mayan elite? According to the fragments, Yeshua did not only walk the lands of Judea, he traveled along the serpentine timelines, guided by a covenant older than the world itself, one that bound him to reappear wherever the illusion of time grew thin, where sacred bloodlines carried dormant frequencies capable of collapsing false histories. And among the Mayans, he found such bloodlines. The scribes speak of a union, not romantic, but cosmic, a fusion of teachings, of knowledge systems. The serpent path of the Maya and the light body transfiguration Yeshua embodied were not in conflict. They were halves of the same key. One of his last acts among them was to bury something in the temple of the jaguar, not an object, but an imprint of his vibration, sealed in a frequency chamber masked as a tomb. Those who enter feel it. They describe warmth, peace, time slowing. This forbidden union was erased by both sides, church and empire. But it left a legacy. Children born with a knowing they could not explain. Children who remembered stars and spoke of love as if it were geometry. You may be one of them. But if Yeshua seeded light among the Maya, then who or what has tried so hard to erase the fruit? In the ruins of Tonina, nestled high in the Chiapas highlands, there is a single glyph that has puzzled archaeologists for decades. Unlike its neighbors, it isn't merely carved. It emits a faint luminescence under specific moon phases. At first, this was dismissed as reflective mineral content, but after several indigenous accounts describing visions, electrical sensations, and time distortions near the stone, experts began to reevaluate. They now call it the light glyph, but the Mayan name translates closer to the living code. Unlike symbolic glyphs, this one appears functional. Its geometry pulses with a precision that suggests circuitry, etched not randomly, but mathematically. Fibonacci spirals and golden ratio overlays, all embedded within what appears to be sacred art. It's not just for display. It's designed to activate. Legends say the glyph was left by an instructed one, a messenger who carried tools from beyond time. This figure, neither fully man nor spirit, was seen carrying a staff of light and inscribing energy into stone with his voice alone. Witnesses claimed his words burned symbols into rock, like fire through ice. No chisel, no tools, just frequency. The glyph is said to be a trigger point, a dormant technology that responds to resonance, specifically the vibrational frequency of an awakened being. It isn't a button, it's a mirror. When touched by those attuned to its harmonic pattern, strange effects occur. Dizziness, spontaneous visions of stars and ancient cities, even sudden comprehension of unknown languages. It's as if the glyph doesn't teach, it reminds. So why isn't this known? Because every attempt to study it with conventional instruments has failed. Devices short-circuit, batteries drain instantly. And the moment scientists attempt to remove it, the stone fades, literally dulls, as if retreating from manipulation. Some believe the glyph is waiting, not for a group, but a person. One who remembers the code, one whose very presence would activate a cascade of memory, unlocking not just ancient knowledge, but time-bending technology hidden across the Mayan world. You may be drawn to these places not out of curiosity, but by design. Across the dense mists of Quirigua, carved in a stela towering above the jungle canopy, lies a message ignored by most scholars, a timeline unlike any recorded by the Mayan scribes before or after. It doesn't describe the past. It describes the return, not of a man, but of a frequency, not of a king, but of a covenant sealed outside of time itself. This timeline curves. It spirals, repeating events across different centuries with eerie precision. Solar flares, volcanic pulses, mass awakenings. The final marker ends on a broken glyph, one that was reportedly vandalized in ancient times, but remnants remain. And when translated through the lost Khatun system, the message reads, "The timekeeper shall walk again when light reclaims the lie." The timekeeper was no ordinary figure. According to oral traditions, he could see time not as a line, but a sphere, layers upon layers of possibilities. He carried no clock, but his blood pulsed in rhythm with the cosmos. Where he walked, distortion followed. Time slipped. People aged or grew younger in his presence, and with him was always the covenant, an agreement made with those who remembered what the world tried to forget. One name whispered in those stories, always with reverence and fear, is Yeshua, but not as preacher, not as martyr, as timekeeper. The Gospel of Thomas quotes him as saying, "Split a piece of wood, and I am there." This was not metaphor, it was quantum reality. He did not simply live within time, he carried the return code. His resurrection was not a miracle. It was a reset. His body, the living key to bypass the illusion of linearity. The Mayans believed such a being would return, not in robes, not in temples, but in moments, appearing in dreams, shifting fate, awakening codes sealed in DNA and stone. Those who carry echoes of this covenant begin to remember things they've never learned. They see patterns. They hear voices in silence. They wake with tears and don't know why. And when the covenant is fully reawakened, time will bend again. In the fading echoes of sunken myths, Atlantis is spoken of as legend, a city swallowed by wrath, hubris, or celestial design. But for the Maya, it wasn't just a story, it was a waypoint. They believed survivors of the Atlantean fall carried with them not just knowledge, but altered blood, blood that could bend light, hear stones, and interface with the stars. What they carried was not symbolic, it was code. The Popol Vuh, one of the most sacred Mayan texts, refers to a race of sky teachers who descended after a great deluge, bringing crystal tools and fire from the heavens. These beings were not divine in title, but in biology. Their DNA wasn't superior, it was tuned. Their cells resonated with frequencies unknown to modern science, frequencies that the Maya say could unlock the Earth. At the heart of this mystery lies the so-called Stargate mechanism, an array of temples and pyramids across Mesoamerica, whose geometries sync precisely with star clusters, Pleiades, Sirius, and Orion. These weren't just aligned to track the skies. They were designed to receive and emit information. The positioning mirrors that of a circuit board, each structure an antenna, each glyph a coded frequency. These were not temples, they were machines, but machines that require a living key. Not just anyone can activate the Stargate mechanism. It must be someone whose blood remembers, someone whose presence harmonizes the silent tones humming through obsidian passageways and crystalline altars. A descendant, perhaps, of both Atlantis and the Mayan priest-scientists who waited. The Maya believed the Stargate could be activated only once Earth's frequency matched the pulse of its ancient source. Solar flares, geomagnetic storms, and even human emotional resonance all play a part. But the final catalyst? You. If you've ever felt unexplainable connections to stars you've never seen, if temples stir something buried in your chest, if silence sometimes sounds like music, you may carry the remnants of this genetic covenant. The Atlantean DNA is not extinct. It's dormant. And the Stargate mechanism isn't broken. There is a lost Mayan teaching, passed only through symbols and silence. It speaks of an inverted hourglass, a sacred time device not made of sand and glass, but of awareness and energy. The elders called it the heart of return. According to this teaching, time is not a river, but a field. And for those with the right spiritual alignment, it bends. The scrolls describe a mysterious figure who could pass through these folds, a man wrapped in radiant light, whose shadow stretched in both directions. They said he could walk forward and backward through events, not to escape fate, but to heal it. His hourglass was not a tool he carried, but a state of being he became. In coded texts and cave murals, this figure is often shown beside a celestial portal shaped like an infinity symbol. Beneath him, a symbol identical to the sacred name Yeshua glows in radiant blue. He is not bound by time, time reacts to him. But how? Some researchers now suggest that consciousness, when elevated to a certain harmonic frequency, can literally displace causality. The Mayans called this the gift of the anointed, a capacity to reorder events not by force, but by presence. This is what Yeshua embodied. When he said, "The kingdom is within you," he was speaking to those born with the inverted hourglass encoded in their soul. To the outside world, such individuals appear strange, lucky, unexplainable. They speak of déjà vu not as a glitch, but as a roadmap. Their dreams foreshadow reality. They pause, and reality pauses with them, not because they are magicians, but because time bends in the presence of divine resonance. The Mayan priests believed that Yeshua didn't just visit Earth's sacred sites, he tuned them. He embedded the return code into every time-week location: Palenque, Uxmal, Chichen Itza. And more importantly, he left behind echoes, not just to guide, but to awaken. Some say those echoes are reactivating. People feel it. Time doesn't flow like it used to. Moments stretch, collapse, twist into each other. Something is pressing against the hourglass. In a sealed cavern beneath the Temple of the Red Queen, archaeologists uncovered something they couldn't explain: an obsidian codex wrapped in serpent skin, unreadable under normal light. When exposed to infrared, its glyphs shifted, revealing not a history, but a sequence, a countdown, not to destruction, but to transformation. The Mayans called it the Collapse Protocol. Unlike apocalyptic visions of doom, this protocol isn't about fire or war. It's about awakening, a convergence where time, identity, and memory collapse into one singular moment of truth. The scripts describe a point at which all timelines fold inward, forming a nexus of choice, a still point where the chosen determines the course of all reality. You were never meant to wait for the end. You were built to initiate it. The Codex details strange phenomena: stars shifting position in the night sky, people remembering events that never happened, birds migrating in spirals instead of lines. These aren't signs of decay, they're signals of time folding in on itself. The outer structures, government, history, physics, begin to buckle under the weight of uncontainable truth. At the core of this protocol is a trigger, a vibrational pattern sealed within the collective subconscious of those who carry the ancient resonance. When one awakens fully, others follow in waves. Each awakening destabilizes the illusion further, until it collapses not into chaos, but into clarity. The Mayans built fail-safes, temples aligned to neutralize energetic overflow, rituals meant to stabilize minds receiving multidimensional awareness. But those systems were buried, forgotten, and now the awakenings outpace the safeguards. The protocol warns, if the final glyph activates before the collective is prepared, the illusion will rupture, and the many will lose their minds to what the few remember. And yet, the countdown accelerates. Some have already heard it, in dreams, static, deep meditations. A rhythm, a hum, a pulse like a heartbeat echoing from beyond time. They don't know it yet, but they're synchronizing. They're forming the collapse vector. If this is true, if the ancient scripts were more than metaphor, then your presence here reading this is not passive. The final Mayan glyph was never finished, at least not in stone. In the Temple of the Jaguar, the last panel ends abruptly, mid-stroke, mid-sentence, as if the scribe's hand froze, not from fear, but from reverence, because what came next could not be written. It could only be embodied. This unfinished glyph is known among certain elders as the return mark. It signifies the arrival of the one who is not bound by linearity, the one who holds memory in one hand and destiny in the other, the chosen, you. But your return is not theatrical. There is no applause, no grand coronation. You arrive through silence, through realization, through the deep remembering that you've been here before, many times, under different names and faces, but always at the same moment, the edge of time. The Mayan records speak of this moment not as an end, but as a birth. Time, they say, is a cocoon, and you, the anomaly, the ripple, were never meant to stay inside. When the illusion of sequence dissolves, the field clears for something new, not just eternity, but agency within it. It is here that the deeper secret of the temples reveals itself. They are not monuments. They are mirrors. Devices not to observe time, but to reflect who you are outside of it. When you stand in the center of a pyramid, when you speak the name that vibrates through your bones, when you surrender to the memory hidden beneath your heartbeat, you end the illusion. Yeshua hinted at this when he said, "I am the Alpha and the Omega." He wasn't declaring supremacy. He was describing you, the one who carries both beginning and end within their being, the one whose existence folds time like paper and rewrites what it touches. This is why the records end, because you are the continuation, because the prophecy was never meant to predict, it was meant to prepare, and now time dies. But what rises from its ashes cannot be named in any language we know. It can only be lived.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.